Hi guys, so just sew this underbust corset with me. Remember, I promised you guys that I was going to be showing you guys a tutorial on how I sewed this underbust corset. So this is the tutorial on how to sew a underbust corset. The first thing I did was to fold this into two, and I'm folding a fabric that I'm going to be using for my underbust into two, and this is the front part of our corset. So I then went ahead at any point to measure out 11.5 inches. I measured out 11.5, and 11.5 signifies my underbust area, the length of my underbust area. So yours can be 10.5 or whatever, but mine is 11.5 inches over here. The next thing I did is I still placed my tape at 11.5 inches. I then came down to measure out the length of my desired length of the corset, my underbust corset, the length at which I want my underbust corset to be, and mine was 19.5. right, that was the length I wanted the front part of my underbust corset to be. After doing that, the next thing I just did over here was I came down by 1 inches from the area where my underbust started from. And the reason I did this was because I did not want my underbust to start directly under my underbust area. I did not want my corset, to start directly under my underbust area. I just wanted to start a little bit below my underbust area, so that was why I came down, but it is optional if you do not want to come down. The next thing I did was to measure out my waist circumference. I then marked it at that point. I divided it by 4, and I marked it. I then measured out my underbust circumference, and then I marked it below that point. I marked out my underbust circumference at that point. Obviously, it was divided by 4. That was what I did. The next thing I'm going to do is to connect the lines together. You guys can see how I connected the lines together. I'm just trying to make the chalk prominent so that you'll be able to see it. After doing that, at the center point, that's our new measurement, I came down by 1 inches. And the reason I'm coming down by 1 inches is just to form a curve. I wanted the front part to have a curve, so that was why I came down by 1 inches, and I'm just going to be connecting it to form what a curve at this point. You guys can see the way I made my curve to look like, right? Then after doing that, next thing I'm just going to do is to come up by that 11.5 inches, and then I'm going to be measuring out a new line where I want my side measurements to be. That the side backs, so it's 17.5 inches, and then I'm going to be connecting the lines together. You guys can see that it is not equal, so we're going to be connecting it to form more of a triangular line. Yes, you can see that it is a slanted line that is formed here. So you can see the front part, the main part, the longer part is 19.5, and the shorter part is 17.5 inches. The next thing I'm just going to do is to go ahead and cut all this out. So after cutting it, this is what it's looking like. So I made a straight line at the side length that we took. You guys can see where I started my measurement from. I made a straight line because we are going to be getting our center back from it. So I placed my drafted fabric on top of this one. You guys can see I placed it on top of it, and then I'm just going to fold it to get our back, because our back is not going to have any form of basque at that point. It's just going to be straight at the back. So I folded it, as you can see, just like this, and then I'm just going to cut all through. And when I reach the upper part of the back, I'm not going to be including a curve at the back, because for the back I did not want it to have like any form of curve. The front has a curve, so I just went ahead. When I reached that point, I made sure that I cut it in a straight line. I did not make any curve, just as the back have a curve. Are you a beginner? Even if you're not a beginner, but you are finding it hard to recreate some certain styles, and this channel is for you. Please, if you have not subscribed, do well by subscribing to this channel, and also liking and commenting. I'll be so grateful. So the next thing I did was I placed it on top of another one to get my other back. So this is what it's looking like, guys, after doing it. So I just placed this fabric over here, and then I'm going to be sewing it at this point, and I'm also going to be sewing these parts at this point also. You can see what I did over here. Then I folded it into two. You can see that I already have our complete basket, right? How it's looking like. I folded it into two, and then after folding it, So guys, I just went ahead to make sure that I trimmed it. I was just trimming it just to give it like an equal footing at all sides. I just wanted it to be as structured as possible and neat as possible. So that was why I trimmed every part of it. So after trimming it, the next thing I did was from the end part of my back I minus 2 inches. Why I minus 2 inches is because the corset is supposed to have a loop at that point, so it's supposed to have an opening. So that was why I minus 2 inches, so it will just give me 4-inch spacing at the back. So this is what it's looking like. So after doing all this, I realized that my corset was too small, so I wanted the length to be a little bit like longer. So I just placed it on top of another fabric, that's the same fabric, and then I just went ahead to cut it out, increasing the length through the upper area. So guys, for your corset, it's totally your choice however you want it to be. So this is what we have now, our main corset. I love the length, I'm very okay with the length now. So I just folded it into two, and then I made sure to place my other fabric on top to get where my center part was, and I'm just going to be imputing the curving we did. What I just did here is not necessary. If you're okay with your length at first, then you don't have to do this. All you just have to do is to cut out a lining for it. So mine was because I was not okay with the length, so I just represented another curve that we did at the other side also. So this here is the boning that I am going to be working with, and this is called a sewable boning. So I recommend you using a sewable boning also, and it's about 1/2 inch. I got this boning for 2 yards, and after doing it was more than enough for me. The next thing I did was to make a straight line at my center point of my underbust corset. You can see with the straight line I made a straight line here. I then came at the upper 9 inch at this point, and then the other side I also marked 3 inches at this point. So this is the area that I'm going to be imputing my boning. I came below and I marked 2 inches at this point, and I also marked 2 inches at the other point. So I'm just going to be connecting the lines together. I connected it and it was giving me a slanted line. I wanted the lines of my boning to be looking slanted and not straight. If you want it to be straight, what's the measurement you use at the upper part will be the measurement you use at the lower part. I also repeated the same process. I came up, I marked 3 inches, I came below and I marked 2 inches, and I connected the lines together also. You can use any measurement of your choice, it's totally up to you, and any width of your choice. I marked 3 inches here, and I marked 2 inches here also, and then it gave me a slanted line. So I just did this continuously, and this is what it's looking like, guys. For this remaining part, that's the finishing part, I came up and I marked 1 inches at this point. Now this is the finishing part, guys, and then I came below and I marked 2.5 inches at the bottom point, and then I'm going to be connecting the line. It also gave me a slanted line. As long as the measurements you're using for the upper part and the lower part are not equal, you'll be sure to have a slanted line. I marked 2 inches at this point, and I also connected the lines together. So this is the boning we are going to be attaching. We are going to be following our patterns we did, our markings we did, and that's the way we are going to be attaching our boning. So this is what it's looking like. It's forming a curve because I've not ironed it. So if you iron yours, it's going to be straight. I have not ironed mine yet, so you guys can see what I did over here. This is what our boning is looking like over here. You could see that I left space for sewing allowance, so you should also do the same. You should leave space for your sewing allowance. Yes, that's what I did over here. I left space for my sewing allowance, and you could see that. Look at how it's looking like, right? Like boning is what gives your corset structure. I sewed my lines at my thread using my thread. I sewed it at both sides. So I'm just going to be placing my corset on top of a lining. I recommend using the same fabric for a lining also, because it will just give it a nice and very nice finishing. So after sewing, I sewed these points. I also sewed the slanted areas also. I sewed the slanted area. The only area that I did not sew was the side area, and why I did not sew it was because I was going to be bringing it out through the side area. So you guys can see that I brought it out to the front part through the side area, so that was why I did not sew that point. So after turning it to the side, obviously this is what it's looking like, guys. I'm just going to iron it, and then we're going to be sewing the side area just to finish up our corset. So I'm going to be sewing the side area also. So I'm just going to be putting it in between and be sewing my side area. I placed the excess in between, and I'll be sewing on top using my machine. I'll be sewing on top using my machine. So that's just what I did here. So guys, at this point we are almost done with our corset. I already went ahead to sew the side area. I already sewed the side area, and the only thing that is remaining is our eyelets for us to impute. So to impute our eyelets, I first of all made a marking at the upper point. If you're imputing your eyelet, it's totally optional. It's totally your choice how you want your eyelet to be. If it's 5 eyelets you want at every side, but mine, I decided to make mine to be 4 eyelets. So I just took a spacing of 1.5 inches, 1.5 inches at all points. So I'm just making a mark with my chalk where I want my eyelets to be. So I chalked them down so it to be prominent enough. So that's what I just did over here. So this is the eyelets that I'm working with. I have 8 eyelets here, 4 at each side, right? So I already went ahead to impute my eyelets. This is what it's looking like. I did not use a machine. I'm so proud of myself. I used a hand. This was my first time trying this out. So I'm just going to show you guys how I did this. So I'm just chalking down the area that I've not put an eyelet just to make sure it's prominent. I'm then going to be folding it into the area where I chalked down. I then folded it to the other side also. I'm now going to be using my scissors to cut this side open. I'm going to be using my scissors to give it an opening. Just a little opening is okay. So I gave it an opening at this point. So after doing that, I turned it to the back part. First of all, I'm just trying to make sure the opening is open, right? So then I turned it to the back part, and I realized there was no opening at the back part. So I also went ahead to open up the back part a little bit. The next thing I'm just going to do is to use my screwdriver to make the hole to be open as possible. So I used the first part of the eyelet. I don't know what it's called. I will just say the main eyelet, right? I then imputed it into this place. I'm just going to bring it out through the back area. I then noticed that the hole was not enough, so I used my scissors to open it more. So that was what I did. I just used my scissors to tear it open. So you're going to be using the front, you are going to be using the back, to bring it out, right? Successfully bring it out. You guys can see what it's looking like. So using my eyelet cover, I'm going to use it to cover it at this point. So I covered it at this point. You can see what we did over here. It's nothing hard. I then use my scissors. I'm just going to be using my scissors to tear open the main eyelet, and using a scissors, I know it might be looking difficult, but then these eyelets are really soft, they are not hard, so it is easy to use a scissors to tear them open. So I used my scissors to tear them open at 4 sides, right? So that was why I used my scissors, and the reason tearing them open is so that I would be able to like turn it, to bend it over. So after tearing it open, you guys can see what it's looking like after tearing it open. Then using a screwdriver, do not use a stone, just use a hard surface that you can use to hit on it. I used a screwdriver to bend all 4 sides to cover my eyelet cover. I made sure that the main eyelet was covering the eyelet cover, so I hit it so that the eyelet will be able to cover my eyelet cover. And this is what it's looking like. Using a plier is optional. If you use a plier, you don't need to tear it open at 4 sides. All you just need to do is to press them. So I did not have a plier, so this is what it was looking like after doing it. This was what it was looking like. So now this is what our underbust corset is looking like, guys. Look at how easy it was. I made a rope at this point. I made a long rope to loop it all around my eyelet area. So guys, this is all for now. We are already done, and here we have our underbust corset. So guys, just tell me what you think on the comment section, what you think about this. And if you have not hit that notification bell, please do, so that you'll be the first to know. And this picture I have over here, this is the first part of the video. If you have not watched it, I recommend you watching it.